You who seek the Golden Land, on the first twilight, offer up the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices.
I never knew they had a storehouse all the way over here. What on earth is that?
When Ava looked in the direction Cannon was pointing, the spectacle in front of her left her speechless. The entrance to the storehouse was covered by a large metal shutter. And there, on the door, filthy from exposure to the wind and rain, there was something that looked like a strange, dark red liquid. Mucus. Or maybe it was paint. But the rain had caused it to drip down like fresh blood leaking from an open wound. And the market form seemed to suggest something truly ominous. 2 circles were drawn on the shutter, with a design inside that looked like a cross. The 4 ends of the cross were widely exaggerated, like some kind of ancient crest. And in the spaces between those shapes, there were some strange, foreign symbols crammed together in a fitful, angry scrawl.
Sweet Lord in heaven. Is this one of those magic circles they use in satanic ceremonies?
Who did this? When did it appear?
There was nothing drawn here when I came by yesterday.
We must cover it up immediately before anyone else sees it. For now, Cannon and I will use the paint inside the storehouse, but we will give it a more thorough cleaning once the storm passes.
Yes, it would be best to get this vulgar graffiti out of sight, if only temporarily. Cannon, please raise the shutter at once.
Yes, ma'am.
Cannon squatted in front of the shed, turned a key in the lock, and slowly lifted the shutter. A loud screech resounded through the garden until that ominous drawing finally disappeared from their vision. For a moment, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. In the parlor, the children could hear hurried footsteps coming from the hallway. It was Genji, but he was out of breath and disheveled, looking as if he had come dashing back from outside the mansion. His shoulders were soaking wet, his shoes were caked with mud, and the bow tie on his suit was askew, in stark contrast with his usually trim, stately appearance. When Genji noticed Nanjo sitting on the sofa, he gave a hurried, silent bow before approaching him with panic in his eyes.
Dr. Nanjo, My apologies, but I need you to come with me right away.
What has happened?
I need your services.
Genji whispered something into Nanjo's ear. Instantly, the old doctor went white as a sheet, and the two of them rapidly left the parlor, shuffling a bit so as not to alert the children sitting around the television. As they turned the corner to leave, they bumped into Natsuhi, who was pushing a serving cart loaded with a china tea set. Just as he had done with Nanjo, Genji whispered something into Natsuhi's ear that made her entire frame go stiff as a board. Abandoning the serving cart, the three of them dashed toward the entrance. When George caught a glimpse of them through the rain-spattered window.
Where are they going in such a hurry?
That's weird. Do you think there was some kind of accident outside?
Well, I say we follow them. It's no fun if we're the only ones left out, right?
For some reason, Battler's bright, cheery tone felt very indiscreet. But George and Jessica couldn't deny that they were a little concerned after seeing the adults run off into the rain. So they got to their feet and prepared to leave.
Wait up a sec. I'll go get us some umbrellas first.
Thanks. Come to think of it, I'm kind of surprised Mr. Genji didn't have umbrellas for those two. Natsuhi's gonna be pretty steamed. Hey, Maria, you coming too, or are you gonna stay here and watch TV?
Wanna watch TV?
She'll be all right on her own for a few minutes. We'll be back soon, Maria. Wait for us here, okay?
We ran after Jessica into the rose garden. Cold raindrops biting at our skin like insects. It felt like the wind was getting stronger with every step we took, and the ominous sound of thunder began to rumble. An eerie presence hung in the air, like some unseen force was watching us, silently urging us to turn back. Jess, is there something over this way?
I'm pretty sure there's a shed for gardening tools or something.
Why would they run off to a place like that?
Sure enough, the three cousins eventually spotted an old, gloomy-looking storehouse beyond the garden hedges. They could see Genji, Nanjo, Kanon, Ava, and Hideyoshi standing in the doorway, looking as if they were searching for something. But Natsuhi was standing outside alone, with not even an umbrella to protect her from the downpour. The children could not see her face, but they could tell that she was hanging her head, and her usual pristine posture looked oddly broken and frail.
Wander into the garden and find her mother like.
When she heard the sound of wet footsteps behind her, a frantic expression rose to her face. She turned toward Battler, George, and Jessica with her arms spread wide, raw terror in her eyes as she cried out,
Don't come any closer! Go back inside the house!
In spite of her efforts, or rather, because of them, the children saw the scene Natsuhi was trying so desperately to shield them from. Inside the storehouse, with its shutter wide open, a faint fluorescent light shone down, flickering like a flame in the darkness. And there, right before their eyes, was...
George, take your cousins and get out of here! Now!
And Ava was also spreading her arms, a faint look of dread on her face. At first I thought she was trying to prevent us from getting too close to something dangerous. But that wasn't the reason. She was trying to stop us from seeing that scarring sight. As a mother, she was trying to protect us, to block our view of that terrible massacre by at least the width of one arm. This is some kind of sick joke, isn't it? I was fine. After all, I'd seen this kind of thing a million times. In movies, TV shows, comic books. Over and over again, I've seen it. This is just another scene, like in some stupid horror movie, right? I can take this. But that suit... It's my dad's, isn't it? So that must be Uncle Kraus. and Kyrie, Aunt Rosa,
Dad!
Mr. Goda.
Jessica, stop!
Oh my God!
You can't go in there. You can't look.
Oh my God!
Aunt Natsuhi held Jessica in her arms, and Aunt Ava held on to George. So only I didn't have a parent there to stop me from approaching the entryway. But that's not true. My parents are here. The people who would stop me, they're right here. Aren't they?
Rigor mortis has taken effect in all of the bodies. Most likely, 6 hours or more have passed since the time of death. But as far as I can tell by looking at the wounds, it is likely that they were mutilated after they had already passed.
What the hell are you saying? Just killing them wasn't enough for this sick bastard? So they went on to do something like this? This is the work of a demon.
Just as Jessica said. It did look like a storehouse for gardening tools. A lawnmower with extra blades. A grass sickle and a hammer. Some carpentry tools. A saw. Piled up potted plants and fertilizer. But in the shadows, you could see the corpses of 5 people laid to rest among the tools. No, laid to rest doesn't even begin to describe it. They'd been tossed in there like bags of fertilizer. All of the bodies jammed into that garden storehouse looked like they were wearing some kind of thick, wet makeup. It wasn't makeup, it was more like their faces had been plowed, smashed, forced into expressions that normal people couldn't possibly make. I couldn't tell where the eyes or the noses were, but I could see their mouths because they were gaping wide, with their gums exposed. The front teeth were missing, and even their cheeks were all torn up. And God damn it, Dad! I always told you to go to hell, but I didn't mean like this. Even an asshole like you didn't deserve to get butchered like an animal. And to Kyrie. Oh God, Kyrie. I told you this guy would bring you nothing but trouble. There was no reason for you to end up like this too. They've got no faces. No faces. Damn it! Damn it!
Battler, you mustn't stay here. Your mother and father wouldn't want you to see them like this. For their sakes, you mustn't look anymore.
Dead people are supposed to have faces that look like they're asleep, right? They've got no faces. My dad and Kyrie have no faces. Oh God, I can't picture what they looked like before they died. What's wrong with me? Will I have to picture this every time I remember them? Well, that's just great. I didn't want to remember the old bastard's smug face anyway. Great, that's just fucking great. Fuck! Stop it, Battler. Just stop it. George! Just stop it. George! I fell to my knees, clinging to George's waist and sobbing like a child. It was as if I was crying on behalf of everyone there, just screaming and sobbing over the sound of the rain.
Father, the ones dead, the ones lying there are Uncle Kraus, Uncle Rudolph, Aunt Kyrie, and Aunt Rosa, and Mr. Goda. So there are 5 victims, right?
No, there's one more over here.
The body Hideyoshi was looking down at was hidden among the shadows of the shed, in a blind spot to George, who stood by the entrance. So George asked his father another question, in a voice that was full of dread, even though he already knew what the answer would be.
So, the one lying at your feet is Shannon?
Yes, it's Shannon.
For a long moment, George fell completely silent. He wanted to run to his beloved's dead body. He wanted to scream, and he wanted to cry. But instead of rashly rushing forward, he fought to keep his composure and spoke to his father in the steadiest voice he could muster.
So she's the same as Uncle Kraus and the others?
Hideyoshi understood the meaning of those words, so he couldn't give George an immediate answer. Rather, he felt that silence was the only sensitive response he could offer his grieving son.
Can I look at her?
No, you can't.
Why not? I'll never get to see her face again. I just want to look at her one more time.
The last time you saw Shannon was yesterday, right?
Yes.
I see. And when you last saw her, what kind of expression did she have?
The night before, when George handed Shannon the engagement ring, she looked surprised and hesitated, even though she must have known he was going to propose. Then she blushed and ran away, embarrassed. That was the expression that revived in George's mind.
It was a wonderful smile.
Hideyoshi looked down at Shannon's lifeless form, crumpled at his feet. Just like the other bodies, it was in such a horrible state that it would make anyone want to cover their eyes. Her head had been smashed in from the side, and no more than half of what used to be her face remained.
George, I know it's hard, but Shannon would be glad you didn't end up seeing her like this. I'll bet right now she's thanking you for holding strong, showing restraint.
Father, I have a request.
What is it?
I need you to look for me. Is there a ring on Shannon's finger?
A ring? Let me see.
Hideyoshi crouched down. As he did, Cannon silently pointed to something on Shannon's body.
Yeah, there is. It's a diamond ring. A real nice one, too.
And which finger is it on?
The ring finger on her left hand.
George leaned against the side of the storehouse and collapsed with his head in his hands.
Hush now and don't cry.